Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's pick a card reading is a quick check-in reading to cover a key astrological transit that's occurring very soon in a couple of days from when this will be posted. So it's to look at the last full moon of 2021, which is falling in the latter area of Gemini, 27 Gemini. And as always, when I do these sort of overviews of what's happening with the transits of the moon, I'm drawing quite a bit of the inspiration from a particular YouTube channel called ABLAS Roland Legrand, which is Roland Legrand, who is an Australian astrologer. It's his channel. It's brilliant. I always recommend it whenever I see it. I just love his work. I think he's very intuitive and very insightful and very knowledgeable, and he synthesizes information really amazingly. I love the way that he does that. So a lot of the inspiration for what I want to do with this reading and the structure of the reading comes from what he has said in a video about this last full moon in Gemini in 2021. So I recommend going and checking it out if you want more detail, or if you're a bit of an astrology fan like I am, then his channel, if you haven't already come across it, I really recommend. I don't know him. I'm not affiliated to him or anything. I know we're both Australians. So maybe I should make that clear. I just really admire his work, and I definitely find him inspirational. So what I want to do with this reading is I want to, first of all, do an introduction that does a bit of a summary of some of the key points he talked about for this astrological transit, because it is really key to understanding and I think making the most out of it. I've also done some reading myself on fixed stars, so separate to Roland's work, fixed stars that are important for this period of time. So I'm going to do a little bit of a lengthy introduction going through that, and I do recommend hanging around for this if you can, because I think it will give you not only a good idea about some key astrological energies coming up for the end of this year and into 2022, but I think it will also give a greater degree of context to how the reading will be structured and the advice that's coming. But of course, if you are not an astrology fan as such, you're really just wanting to hear the messages, you can jump straight to the timestamp that talks about the pile choice and then go to your reading. So it's completely up to you. But for those of you that haven't immediately gone and done that, to give you a bit of an idea about what's going on with this transit. So first of all, drawing on what Roland was talking about. As I said, the moon is in 27 Gemini, so the later degrees of Gemini. So it will be changing signs within a few days of this occurring, and obviously shifting some of the energy. But as it does it, and as it has that transit, it connects in opposition to Mercury, and that's really important because Mercury, not only is it the ruler of Gemini, but it's also all about sort of rationality, facts, and thinking things through, and communication, all of which is very important at this time. So the sun, of course, is opposite the moon for a full moon. It's at 27 Sagittarius, and this period of time and what we're talking about in terms of what could be born and developed in this period of time goes through to the new moon, which is on the 2nd of January, which will be in Capricorn. So full moons are always an end of a cycle in a way, but they're also a kind of a period of time of contemplation before we start to really trigger the new moon energy. And because it's also happening, the new moon, the next one is happening in the new year, it's sort of psychologically and almost spiritually has a new cycle, a heightened level of new cycle about it. So what Roland was saying is the best way to use this energy is to think about, what do you want for January 2022 and going forward? What do you really want for next year? And start to work that out in detail and also at a high level so that you can plan and prepare. So that's why the whole concept of this reading is about what can you prepare for using the energies of this full moon for 2022. So there is a challenge in this particular full moon, because although, as I say, during its transit and as it sort of just starts to move out of the actual full moon itself and goes into that diminishing sort of cycle which happens with the moon before it becomes a new moon again, as it's going into that time, it's also, and so is the sun, of course, in a discordant aspect to Neptune. So Neptune, so it's a challenging aspect. When you say discordant, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, and in fact, Roland has some great advice about how to use it. But it does mean that some of that rationality that you would get from the moon opposite Mercury, that sort of head and heart balancing act that you would be dealing with the heart being in the moon and the head being in Mercury, so to speak, is a little bit challenged by Neptune, where it can be a bit unclear or unsure, where the facts aren't there. And the black moon Lilith is close to the moon around all of this as well too. And the black moon Lilith can shroud or hide things to some degree. So there is a little bit of an issue about, do you get all the facts that you need to make the right decisions? Now, I wouldn't panic too much about that. My view about life, for what it's worth, is that life is just a series of decisions made with imperfect information. We never know everything, but it behooves us to think about how do we get the best information we can, so that if we then find something else later that doesn't fit with what we believe, we can course correct. Beliefs should be flexible to fit with the prevailing information that we have, so that we are rational. But they also need to be connected to a value system, connected to something that really matters to us, connected to our ideals, which is Neptune. And the interesting thing that he was saying is that although it's discordant, what you can do with this sort of energy together is that it gives you an opportunity to do both sides of preparation. And if I can give you an analogy, he talks about Neptune as being the spiritual higher level view of things. You know, what are you really trying to achieve? What's your purpose on a spiritual level, a sort of values-based level? And then Mercury as being the detail. To me, it's analogous to people, say, in an organisation. There are people in an organisation who would probably very much strongly show the Mercury side of this, which is the planners, the preparers. You're going to love this energy, I've got to say. If you're a project manager or you're someone who's into planning and preparing, you're going to very much connect into Mercury, and that's going to be fantastic because you're very comfortable with planning and putting information into alignment with what you're trying to achieve. The other side of that in an organisation is often the big blue sky thinkers. They're the visionaries, the ones who want to sort of push something new forward. They're often not detailed people, but they know what they're really trying to achieve. And so if you are someone who errs towards the Mercury end of the scale, then as I say, you're going to love all the planning, all the detail. But the blue sky stuff, you might miss some of that if you're not trying to also focus on that. If you don't really see, you can get lost in the detail and lose track of what you're ultimately trying to achieve. On the other hand, if you're all blue sky and you don't do the detail, you often don't really bring about what you need to bring about. That's why visionaries need great planners as well, great project managers and so forth, to really get a good outcome. And there needs to be a really good and respectful dialogue between them for that to work. So you almost need that dialogue within yourself with this energy. So whatever it is, and it's going to be something that's dear to your heart with the moon there and also with Neptune, and dear to what really matters to you and who you're developing into, you really need to trigger whatever is the not so automatic way of looking at things to get the balance during this time so that you prepare properly. So if you are someone who's very much a planner, think about what's the big picture, really start to envisage that. If you're a big picture person, really think about the details. And so I'm going to structure the reading to look at what's the big picture stuff, the sort of key issues and energies that could really bear fruit for you into 2022. And then what are the details that you need to look at as well, so that you kind of get that energy from both. And it's going to have a very strong spiritual sort of aspect to it. So that's very positive. The other thing that's very positive is the fixed stars. So during the period just coming up to the full moon itself, and in a few days after, there's around about 4 fixed stars that the moon is traversing. And I just want to go through what they represent, and you'll get a picture as to why I think this is all very positive and a really important period of time. So in the lead up to it, there are 2 fixed stars that are kind of together in the firmament. One is called Wesen and one is called Safe. Safe is so they're in different constellations, but they're kind of, for the purposes of the view of this, they're connected to the same degree. So Safe is in Orion, which is of course the hunter. And then Wesen is in a constellation called Columba, which is the dove, and it's the heart of the dove. So to me, there is an aspect around this which is about pursuing something with a lot of fervour, as a hunter would, that is true to the heart and true to peace in some way. So these fixed stars give physical and moral strength, and they're a blessing as long as we're not too zealous. So this is the thing about not letting Neptune overtake the energy of it. And it's about leadership and about strength and compassion. So really lovely sort of energy coming from it. To give you some examples, Carl Jung had Amor, which is love, the asteroid of love, conjunct these. So there was a great deal of love involved in his looking at archetypes and a great deal of compassion around it. Mozart, one of the great geniuses, musical geniuses of the world, had Black Moon Lilith there. And so there was something about his pursuit of what was true to his heart that was sort of so incredibly classic in all sort of ways of the world. And Black Moon Lilith is that getting to the depths, is that connecting on a really depth level. So I think there's a lot of positive, powerful energy coming off that. Then just after the full moon, the moon comes to Polaris and Betelgeuse. So Polaris is in Ursa Minor, the lesser she-bear constellation. And this is all about, interestingly, navigation, having a strong mind, using spiritual guidance and clarifying thoughts. So this feels very much like the energy of the Mercury connection here, and navigating your way to what you want to do and getting guidance to do that, and spiritual guidance in particular. And then Betelgeuse is in Orion, so that's the great hunter again. And that has a kingly quality, almost a martial quality. It's all about drive and yang energy. So it's really that drive towards achieving. So achieving something with true navigation. And then after that, it comes to a fixed star called Menkalina, which is in the constellation of the Charioteer. So to me, that immediately made me think of the Chariot card in the tarot. So that sense of balancing head and heart again, which is so much this type of energy. And that's about carrying burdens, shouldering responsibility, awareness of the more serious and the more consequential side of life, and a boldness to it. Gandhi had Hygeia, which is an asteroid of deep healing, conjunct Menkalina. So you can sort of see how that connected for him. And Krishnamurti also had Venus here, so that connection of the heart. So I think there's something about this time, and it's really interesting to me personally because I came across Roland's video, and of course watched it as I always would. And when I saw that, and then I looked at the fixed stars, it fits with something I've been feeling myself over the last few days, and I can't even tell you where this comes from. It's not I don't read for myself, so it's not from any reading that I've done for myself, but I have this sense for the first time in a long time that something really deeply positive is coming through. And I don't mean just for me, I mean for the universe, for the world. I don't know why I think it. I mean, when you look at the complex environment that we're in now, particularly politically and in terms of the media and communication, which is very much the sort of Mercury energy, I don't know why on a rational level I'm thinking that, but on a deep spiritual level, I feel like something shifted. I don't know whether it was coming out of the energy of some of the difficult transits in November. I mean, we're coming out of a very difficult time, but I really feel very positive. I think there's a lot that can be done in 2022. I think there's something about that year. And I don't know whether this is just on a subtle level or whether it's in the very deeply material. Certainly with these transits, it's probably a bit of both. But I feel very optimistic about that. I think there's something really deeply good coming through. And how it's going to manifest in any of our individual lives, I don't know. But I feel like there's a shifting in the field, so to speak, shifting in the matrix or something. So that's just a personal intuitive feeling. Time will tell whether that is resonant more generally. But I really feel there's something deeply spiritual. I feel like there's a spiritual intervention, a spiritual guidance coming. And so that particular fixed star that talks about navigation really makes me feel we are all going to be guided a lot in this time. So if we really make the most of this, there's a lot that we can bear fruit with in 2022. So hence why I wanted to do a reading, which is about what can you prepare for and bring into being with this energy. So now, if you have been with me through that, we are at the point where I'll put a timestamp in for the pile choice. Picking up what I've just been talking about, which is that deeply spiritual feeling I have around the energy. I'm using, instead of tarot cards here, I'm using actually a deck which is the Buddha Reading Cards deck from Rock Hill Publishing. Gorgeous sort of deck that has, as you can see, very spiritual images. So the different images are how to choose which pile you want to go to. I'm also very specifically using a particular tarot deck and oracle pairing for this, which is the Journey of the Sacred Bee Tarot and the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle, because I feel there's something about the concept. I feel like bees really, really, in a sense, embody exactly the energy that we're talking about here, because on the micro level, on the day-to-day, they're very industrious, the things that they do to pollinate plants and so forth. It's very much a kind of rational, bit by bit, material sort of thing that they do, but the effect they have on the ecosystem, the effect they have on the world, the absolute essentiality of them, so to speak, to me talks about that Neptunian, larger, higher level perspective as well too. So I thought, apart from the fact that they're absolutely beautiful decks, I thought that it is a really good energy to pick this up. I really wanted to manifest this energy as much as I could in this reading. So to choose your piles, the first pile, if you're drawn to this image of sort of fishes under the sea or under a lake potentially with the sort of lotus flowers, then that's pile 1. If you're drawn to this figure of a spiritual seeker with this rather gorgeous bird, that's going to be reading 2. If you're drawn to this sort of multicoloured head of, again, a spiritual seeker, that's pile 3. And if you're drawn to this very serene looking spiritual seeker, again, pile 4. That looks like they have amazing earrings, but I'm not sure if that's what it's meant to depict, but it's gorgeous. And each of these cards have a particular message, which will be the beginning of the reading. Of course, if you're drawn to more than one, go to more than one. There might be messages across all of them for you. But once you know what readings you want to go to, as always, the timestamps will be in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you chose this gorgeous picture of, as I say, the fish in a pond or in a stream or in a sea. So each of these particular cards comes from one of 4 suits within this deck. So your suit is around contemplation. So what this tells me is that there is something contemplative about this time. It suggests that maybe there are things from the past that you need to release and let go, and that you maybe even need to look into how you think, how you contemplate and so forth to really get an accurate fix on how to plan towards what you want. This is about desires, so your desires are going to be important, like really calibrating and working out what your desires are, and whether things maybe that you've desired in the last year are really the right things to be desiring now. It has some quotes and information. So Buddha says in this, the root of all suffering is desire. So there's something here. Maybe this is saying that there's something you need to let go of that you desire, that it's no longer quite right for you, and maybe this is a time to plan for something new. So that could be an energy there. Or it could be saying that when you use this energy going forward and you plan to have a sort of broader sense about where it might land, rather than a very fixed idea about what would it be to manifest this, to go more towards the feeling and less towards an actual outcome. So almost a little bit more towards the Neptune energy for you than the Mercury energy in trying to get this balance right. This says the steady stream of human desires are directing you away from the beauty of the present moment to the fantasy of the future, taking you away from the appreciation of what you've got and what life is offering to you right now. So that's interesting for a reading like this, because we are going to be future focused. I think it is saying to detach a bit from the ultimate outcome, as I say, and to move forward to enjoying the journey. I feel that is saying that more and more information will come to you over this period of time. If you tried to make the decision just when the full moon was there, you wouldn't have all the information you needed, and you would be projecting into the future before you had enough information to make the right decision. So I think it's saying enjoy life now and let go of that which is not serving you in some way. You may be a very future focused person in general, and there's a lot to be said for that. It can be the people who bring in the innovation, the new, all of that sort of stuff, which is fantastic for this energy. But what can happen with future focused people is and I say we because I tend to be a bit future focused, we can be apt to catastrophize sometimes. And to almost be a bit glass half full sometimes. So I think there's a message here about going easy. Part of the planning is to let the information come to you at a time that it should. So let's ask the tarot a little bit about what information is coming to you. What what are the sort of areas in your life, firstly, that this energy would be best used for in terms of creating something new, but being able to sit in a I'm trying to think of the right word, having to sit in a status of contemplation for a while, letting the information come through. What is it, and why is it potentially that this is an important message for you? Okay, so firstly, this particular tarot deck draws a lot from the Thoth system. I tend to read more the Rider-Waite, but I'll sort of pick up some of the energies from this as well in honour of the deck. So to some degree, some of the words that you see there, I think may have relevance, but I think I will look at them more broadly. But this definitely suggests to me, between the contemplation and not living too far in the future and worrying about what's happening next, and we have the Eight of Swords and the Seven of Swords, you do live a lot in your head. On occasion, it can bring you peace, and I will talk to you about what I think this is saying around that. But firstly, there is something where you have felt very trapped. It could be in your workplace, it could be in a relationship, it could be in a particular philosophical structure, and you feel as though you have to keep negotiating your way around things. You're very detail-oriented and very future-oriented. So I definitely think Mercury is operating strongly for you. And I think the Neptunian energy is what you need to sort of focus in on in this balance, definitely. But there is something about freeing yourself and negotiating your terms that make you feel more comfortable with a philosophy or an approach about this time. So I feel like most of you have been this year maybe working towards something in your career or a relationship or something like that, where you feel kind of trapped within it. You kind of feel like I've put this much investment into it and I need to just keep going with it. But renegotiating the terms of what this was all about is important, and you will do it through your head. So when I say to you that I think the Neptunian energy is the energy you need to connect to here, the big picture, blue sky, what was this all really about, as opposed to what are the details of it, that's the thing that's going to help you negotiate to have peace of mind. But even with that, you're going to be someone who does it through their head. It's just who you are. So you're not, things like meditation, contemplate, all of those things are great. And this certainly is suggesting that that will help. But I think that whatever comes out of it, you then need to filter it through something that your mind is comfortable with. Remembering, however, that your mind can straitjacket you just as much as it can give you the sort of strength to negotiate what you want. So you've got to make it more around that. So the facts that you look for, connecting to the Neptunian energy of what is it that you're trying to create, or who are you trying to be in the world, or what relationship you're trying to be in, whatever it might be that this is connecting to, you need to work out a way to make it yours, to make it fit with what your values and so forth are. And it's interesting that we have the Eight of Discs or Eight of Pentacles here, because that is often someone who's studied. I think many who come here, you might have been going through a process of studying something in the last year or two, and there is a lot that is you have achieved with that. You've achieved quite a level of mastery in whatever this is, and you know, a lot of skill, but I feel as though you felt a little bit constrained by almost the values or the sort of like philosophical structure around what it is, and it is time to complete that and move into what you would make of this. So to give you an example, I'm getting, say, somebody who might have been working on learning something like divination, for instance. So I'm going to try to make it as separate from a career and into something a bit spiritual as an example. It feels as though you may have spent quite a bit of time learning the systems that you were operating with, the beliefs, the theory, all of that sort of stuff, to the point now that just staying with that, you're straitjacketed. So it's like the detail, you know, like if you were learning tarot, for instance, I would be saying to you, stop picking up tarot books, just stop doing it. You've got enough now. What you have to do is work out who you are and how you want to express it and how that connects to your own inner knowing and your kind of connection to source with Neptune, because the time of study is complete. The time of study is complete and you are ready to take this out into the world in whatever way that you want to do it. So that's just an example. It could be any type of study. It doesn't have to be sort of formal. It could be just looking into something, mastering a skill and so forth. If it's around a relationship, then you put a lot of energy into a relationship, into landing it, into making it something. But maybe that straitjacketed you a bit. It's almost step back and say, is this really on my life path? That's the general feeling. I think that's why it's saying contemplation is what you need. Living in the future for you is living in your head and all the details and what next on my checklist and so forth. And, you know, how much does this accord with what I've learned about what is the right way to create something, to paint a painting, to read tarot cards, whatever it might be. You need to separate yourself. And this is a time to do that. This is a time to almost defrag from all of that so that you can start to express who you are within whatever space this is. So I think it's a time of liberation for you, but it's as much liberation from your own tendency to rely on the views of other authority figures in some way and start to know how clever you are and how much you can bring something new into the field. So given that, let's ask what sort of energy there is around the external world. What things could be impacting on this? What facts could you potentially be missing? Or I think, you know, what bigger sort of systems around the beliefs and so forth that you've been following are there that you need to be aware of so that you can get that liberation. Okay, so firstly, alchemy is effectively temperance. So there is the wish for balance. And I think this is actually picking up the astrological energy. I think you will very much align to this. I wouldn't be surprised in your chart if you have something in the 27th degree in one or more signs, because I think you are very much picking up the external energy towards temperance and balance is impacting you. And I think it's almost like a little bit of an irritant under the skin. There's a side of you that knows that you've given up a bit of your sovereignty and it's time to take it back. And there is definitely, once you pick that energy up, the chance of victory and the chance of recognition. If any of you have been, you know, working on something and following the rules at work and really wanting that next career move, and you feel like you've been a bit stuck for a while, there is an energy coming through for you to have victory around that. If it's around a creative project and you felt a bit blocked, then there is again the energy coming through for being seen. But what you do need to know is that there are some people around you or some forces around you that are very conventional. You ultimately, because you live so much in your head, you're very fast, you're ahead of the pack. That's why you're future focused. You really are. There's at least one energy or person, I suspect it's a person around you, that is very conventional, who likes things done just so. And that energy is impacting on you. And it may be coming up here to say, when you're planning and preparing, for some reason this person is important, you need to be aware of it. It could be a boss, it could be the other half if this is a relationship, and you just need to understand this is part of the balance that you need to get the temperance between you, that you're very quick and ahead and new, and they are maybe, I feel more comfortable with the conventional or something like that. And they're having an impact on this, and they've been almost like a mentor or a teacher to you. So you need to be aware of that energy. You don't have to follow it. It'll depend very much on who the person is and what impact they have in the material life, but that energy is there. And it is possible that the more that you have victory with this, the more uncomfortable that person may become. It looks as though they've had a little bit of vested interest in you not quite getting to the level. So not quite being the Queen of Discs the right way up, being sort of the person who can bring in manifestation, money, success, you know, and all that sort of thing. And not quite the Queen of Wands, the person who really shines and picks up this energy of sort of like victory and recognition and so forth. So I feel like many of you, part of this time is to contemplate whether you've given away a bit too much power to somebody who has, and I don't think they're necessarily a bad person, but I think they're conventional, they're a little bit threatened by your sort of speed of thinking and your sort of innovation and so forth. This may be time to really think about recalibrating that relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it. I don't necessarily feel like it's bad per se. I just feel they're very, this is the way things should be, and you should be learning from me type of energy. Whereas I think this energy is about you starting to understand you don't need to learn from anybody anymore. You are ready for whatever this is. And looking into the future, worrying about the details, worrying if you have enough academic learning or whatever it might be is not the point. It's time to start to really understand the power of your mind and to bring things into being in a way. It's interesting, the Queen of Discs reversed is almost clarifying the world there. It's like there's so much that you could achieve, and I do think that you are very primed if you use this energy to understand that and to turn that energy around and to really make something of this time and of your future thinking. But it's not to put it into worry about the impact of bringing it. It's just to experience it day by day and have a kind of flexibility to deal with information as come through, and have faith on yourself about being able to deal with information as it comes through. You have enough of a grounding. You absolutely do. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other information that was under this card. So I've got, firstly, I want to look at the Sacred Bee Oracle as well, to see what other energies are here. Now, these energies may either be energies that you really want to work with, or they may be energies that you want to release, because always with a full moon there is a letting go of certain things to bring the new in. So it could be either picking up this energy here, or it could be picking up what you can bring in. So we'll see what else Spirit wants to mention to you. Okay, so this is definitely picking up the energy you need to let go of. You could worry for the Olympics, you worry about whether or not what you're doing is right, whether it's good enough, whether it's going to succeed. You can, as I say, your mind is so strong that you can bring in the negative energy just by thinking about it. So you do need to let go of that. And I do think maybe you've suffered something, you maybe didn't get recognition for something, maybe someone very much did treat you as a lesser being, that they're meant to be always teaching. There's a certain degree of anguish, there's a pull for this, and if it is in a relationship, it may be that it's time to think about whether that relationship is the right one. It might have been good for a time, but if it can't go through a transition where you come into your own power, then that may be something you need to think about. You have a little bit of a fear of scarcity. I do think this is what this person's been able to almost leverage with you. And again, I don't feel for most of you it's really necessarily a bad person, but I think this person, it may even be stuff from your childhood. It may be that family was all about make sure you make the money, make sure you have the career, make sure you have the professional qualifications, etc. So you have a little bit of a fear of scarcity. Again, with the Queen of Discs reverse, that could be picking that up. But that's stuff to release. This is very strongly saying at the beginning that you have done the work you need to do to be able to navigate yourself and to really bring about something new for yourself and bring in the sort of abundance and so forth and the balance and the victory. But you have to believe it, because at the moment, for whatever reason, you don't. And I suspect it's because you've given over some of your power to other people in some way. And again, I don't think necessarily in most cases these people have meant harm, but I think that you've just looked up to them and not realised what was within yourself. So let's also have a look at the astrology energy around you with this, the other astrology stuff. So we've got Scorpio, the 9th house, and the 5th house. Okay, so Scorpio is transformative. I think that's actually a fantastic energy to have around it. Some of you may have planets or angles around about 27 Scorpio potentially, and that would be in a difficult, if that's the case, aspect to the Gemini moon. But sometimes the difficult aspect, just like the difficult aspect to Neptune in general for the collective for this, is the thing that you need, the thing that really brings things up from the surface. And Scorpio is certainly a card that is about change and about bringing things up from the surface and so forth. Its celestial body is Pluto, so it's about transformation. So there's an enormous opportunity now for you, as I say, to come into your power and so forth. And I think that's very positive for you. It does have something maybe to do with creativity or love. So for some of you, this is about a relationship, and for others, it is about something you create. And it's connected to the 9th house, which is about learning. So I definitely think this is coming through very strongly. that it is time for you to spread your wings and fly on your own, because you are more than ready to do that. You are more than ready to find the right love. You are more than ready to create your new future. You are more than ready in terms of your information. So let go that feeling that you're never quite there, or you need the next qualification, or you need the next piece of paper, or whatever it is. You are ready, and this is the time to really think about, how do I marry all that knowledge that I have with what my life purpose is, so that I can bring that energy in 2022. So let's have a look at what signs you might see that you are really starting to get this and it's really starting to click for you. Okay, so firstly, seedlings. I think that fits exactly. I think it's time for you to start to grow your own garden. Like almost literally. I mean, if you have the capacity to do that, I think that's a perfect energy, a perfect sort of contemplative, meditative energy for you that replicates in the material what you will be doing in the sort of like 5D. You are starting to plant the seeds for your new beginning. And I think that's also why the contemplation card was there. The seedlings take time to grow. Whatever you are starting to do now will take time. It's probably not going to suddenly, I think you will get some recognition for all that you've done and that you're starting to, take your own path. But I think this is just the beginning of a longer journey, something that has a lot of potential, but something that you're really starting to claim your place, your seedlings and so forth. So if you do something like a garden, or if you see gardens, or if you read about seedlings, anything like that, that urge to start something new and grow something new is a sign that you're really connecting into this energy. We also have house. I think that's about security here. I think it's knowing that you can be secure in yourself. The fourth house in the astrology chart is about home, so that connects to house and home. So this is about who you are at your base level. If you have access to your chart, look at what sign you have in the fourth house, because it's just as important about describing you as your sun sign or even your ascendant. It's who we are at home. So I feel there's something there for you, like who are you at home? What was your real core drive and so forth? So have a look at that. You may also, see ads for real estate. You may see signs up around houses or whatever. All these things, if you see something along those lines and you are thinking about something, then pay attention to what you were thinking about. Also want to ask about timing, and then we're going to finish off with some angel energy and some astro chakra energy for you. So this is timing about what comes after this period of contemplation and preparation. It's not sort of timing within it, because we know the timing is, pretty much a few weeks around the full moon and into the new moon. Okay, this is a bit of a push-pull thing. I just think it's time to work and then press pause. So it's interesting because it almost feels contradictory, but I feel like it's saying that there will be stages. So I think it is saying that as this energy comes in, there's time to work, but you always need, as you do things, as you've done things, press pause, recalibrate, work out what's working. This is how you start to ground to the Mercury energy rather than the Neptune energy on that level. It's where you don't go straight into the future. You take things one step at a time. Just like a seedling will grow, it goes through various maturation processes, so will be what you do. So allow yourself that. I do some work, I test it, I recalibrate, I make sure that it's on point for what I want to achieve, and it's also, in terms of preparation and planning, good. And then you unpress pause, and then you work and so forth. So I think it's just showing a pattern that's coming up for you. All right. So I want to look at some fortune energy, angelic number energy and so forth, and then we're going to finish off with the astro chakra cards. So firstly, these are dice from a woman called Bobby Richardson, who has her own YouTube channel. She channels angel messages and sort of starseed messages, so you might want to check that out. So it's got some couple of dice that show sort of starseed channeling type of energy, and the rest is sort of numbers that which we'll look at in terms of numerology and angelic numbers. So firstly, you've got oneness. So that's showing that you are more spiritually connected. This is the thing with the Temperance card here. You're more spiritually connected than I think you give yourself credit for. I think because you live so much in your head, You may in fact be someone who, even watching readings like this, it's sort of like you're kind of half in and half not in, because it's sort of like it has to make sense rationally, but you're more connected to spirit than you think, and particularly with 11, because 11 is a spiritual card. It's spiritual number. It's a number of spiritual connection and angelic energy coming through to you. It's a power number. So it's really saying that you are very much aligned to the self and to back yourself. The numbers we have are 1, 7 and 9. So yeah, this is very much a time of spiritual transformation for you. It's about who you are with 1. It is around sort of inspiration, new ideas, seedlings, all of that coming through, and major transformation and major spiritual connection. So these numbers may be lucky numbers for you, or in some combination you may see them and so forth, and that could be a sign for you. But I think it's really just honing in on the major transformation spiritually that's going on. That's why contemplation is important. That's why you work and then you pause, and then you work and then you pause. And this is why it's also important, because of the 1, for you to really own who you are in this period of time. So to help with that, let's close out with some astro chakra energy that can help you really connect to who you are and own your own sovereignty, which I think is the real promise of this time for you, Pole 1. Okay, so firstly we have 2 Pluto energies, so that's almost sort of a doubling up of this Scorpio energy. This is definitely showing the degree of transformation going on, and it is transforming both in your sense of power and who you are in the world, and your spiritual connection. So as I say, if you haven't felt that, you're going to feel it even more in this period of time, and the more that you connect in with that, the more the transformation happens, and you strengthen and you rise spiritually, you rise in who you are, you start to own your own knowledge and your own ability and your own connection, and then you can communicate it. So you've got Neptune, interestingly, here in the throat chakra of communication, exploring dreams. So I think that's partly the press pause. Always make sure you kind of recalibrate as you grow and you rise, that you are going in the direction that you want to go in, and use that Neptune energy that's around at the moment to really work out, what do you want to do? Because I just think that most of the people who've come here, you've got caught in somebody else's system, somebody else's idea about how things should be done, somebody else's education beliefs or whatever. This is time for you to really go, what's that macro thing that I want? What's the bird's eye view that I want? What do I believe in? Explore your dreams, communicate those, because that helps with this transformation. So it's a profound time for you. I think you're very much dialed into these energies, as I say, and I really hope that you take this message, because I think it's time for you to liberate yourself. And as I say, not necessarily from something bad, but for something that has done its time, and it is time for you to really start to express who you are. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope it makes sense and it really helps you take advantage of these really positive energies, I think, that are around with this full moon. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and if you care to share in the comments, I'd be fascinated to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. Oops, I just realised I hadn't changed over the number. Welcome, Pile 2. This is your reading. You've come to the right place. So, how it's starting this reading is with one of the Buddha reading cards. They have a number of different almost suits, so to speak, that have particular energies. And so what I wanted to do with this was look at what that energy is, to give us a bit of a guiding light to what might be the area in your life where really planning from both that macro and also that detailed level would really help you during this time, and to look at its general advice. So underneath this gorgeous image is the thing saying this is a truth card. So there's something about the truth, which is a very good energy, actually, I would say, for this, because getting to those details, getting to those facts, and being brave enough to look at the truth and really work through that is a very positive way to use this energy. So this is card number 4, which is about the path. There is a quote from Buddha that says, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." So there's something also that's very true about you here. There's going to be something very true and intrinsic to your life path, to your soul, to your personality. The card says the path to enlightenment is an endless process. You have to practice diligently and with discipline. Eventually you will become the path itself and fewer struggles and sufferings will come your way. So I think that many who have come to this particular reading are people who are part of a spiritual process. Like there's something about your spiritual process, your spiritual path. So the Neptunian energy is the one that is natural to you out of the two, in the Neptune and Mercury that I was talking about in the introduction, if you heard the introduction. So Neptune is about the big picture. I think you're very natural looking from that bird's eye view. You're very natural looking at making sure that things align to your spiritual purpose, which is wonderful. It's possible though with a truth card here that the details, so the Mercury side of things, the side of what is the details, what are the facts, and getting to the truth is a very important thing here. So it may be that for some of you, you felt a bit stuck in a spiritual quest or in a personal values quest. If this is working in a more material level, if you're fighting for a cause or for a person or for something like that, then you may have felt that you didn't have all the information you needed, that something isn't what it appears to be, that something isn't true. So getting into the detail is going to be important because you're all over the path. You're all over being able to be true to yourself. I think on that level, it's like this period of time is about accessing that Mercury and the detail. Okay, so let's ask Tarot for a little bit more detail about what that really does look like, particularly as detail is what you need to focus in, I think. So what are the areas in Pile 2's life where this energy of exploration and getting into the detail and aligning it to that truth and to the spiritual path, what areas is that really going to manifest in this period of time? Okay, I think for most of you, this is manifesting in probably material or work life. There is a possibility for some, it might be around a relationship, or it could be saying that there's a bit of both. But I want to start firstly with the energy here that we started with, which is the Princess of Discs or the Page of Discs, and then the Seven of Discs. That very much feels like a material thing that you're working on. So even if this is about following your path, I feel like whether it's in a career or a creative project, or even for some of you, it may be about starting a family or something like that. There is very much a focus on the material and on realizing the work that you would have done in the material world in creating something in some way, because the court cards always follow the Ace to 10, and I feel like here it's saying that you've been putting over the last year or so a lot of work into developing and growing something. And you've definitely got the patience to do it with the Seven of Discs. And I think there is a lot of potential here that you will start to see a return on investment in whatever it is. So if it has been focusing on something in your career, coming into 2022, I think you're going to start to see, potentially the opportunity to move up the ladder, or if it's in a business, you're going to start to really see money coming in. All of those sort of things are going to be there. But it's followed a period of a lot of drama. Some of you may, in fact, have left somewhere to go into business for yourself potentially, and you're really trying to align that to the path. But for some of you, there's also been something that's come out of left field. This is where I get the sense that there are some pieces of information still to come through, and being open to that and open to what you see and a bit detached from what it means, just using it towards building what is solid in your life and letting go of what wasn't. For some of you, there's a breakup, and it could be a breakup with a business partner, an organization, something like that. There is something that you will become more aware of, if you're not already, that was not quite what you wanted it to be. There's information coming through along those lines. Now, the good thing about the Ten of Swords is it's always the worst is over. So that suggests to me this isn't going to be news to you. You're going to be going, yeah, I kind of knew something wasn't really working. It feels almost like somebody who's got a number of irons in the fire, and one of them, is not working. It may, in fact, be because somebody that you've been working with was not really to be trusted, or not really as much on the same page as you. So there's something in that area, but you also know that you have built other things. You've got you've got the sort of escape hatch if it's around your career or whatever, so that's good. And you are really building towards what is true to you, whereas I think there's something that hasn't been. It could be a romantic relationship with the Princess of Cups reversed. It could be that it was a romantic relationship or a love relationship that didn't really have the same focus, the same ardor, the same commitment, something like that. If it's a business partnership, then there may have been a bit of an emotional fallout, or it might be coming. But if it does, I think Spirit is saying don't worry, because you are very much on your path. You're following the right path for you, and you're materializing and manifesting what you want. It's just kind of let the drama move through you, let go of you. The truth helps you to set you free, as this card was indicating, letting the truth come in, seeing it, and then letting it pass through you so that you can move on is the energy. So I think for pile 2, if you don't already know what this is, then I think something's coming in with you. There's information coming in. Maybe a little bit of a shock to the system, but it's exactly the thing that's necessary to detach from what hasn't been working and to get you recalibrated to what will. So let's ask a little bit more around what external factors, because I do think there's an external factor here. I think there's information coming in that's really going to get you back on the path towards building what you meant to build. Okay. This is definitely, I think, around work. If you don't resonate to something around your work, your career, your creativity, something that you're manifesting in the material world that is connected to your spiritual values, then you possibly have picked the wrong pile, because this is a very, very specific message, I think. It's talking about something in your work environment with the Knight of Discs, and you are very committed to that and very focused on that you need to liberate yourself from, because there's something that's not honest going on. It could be, and whether it's deliberately dishonest is another matter. It could just be that you are not on the same page as somebody now that you were working with, or the organisation that you're in, or something like that. But I think for some of you, you're going to find out something that says, on a kind of almost spiritual level, I can't abide with this. This is against my values. It's against what I would want to do. Or it could be that you find somebody is sort of like playing people off against each other a bit with the Seven of Swords reversed. There's a sense of something that's not honest, not accurate, and so forth, and that has an impact. It has almost a chilling impact on the environment that you're around. This does feel like maybe you're in a workplace that you'll find is not really aligned to your ethics, but it's not a place where you can necessarily talk truth to power if that's the case. There's too much emotional fallout when that happens. I'm actually getting, this is quite specific, but I'm getting some of you may have seen in the recent past, or may see over this period of time, people being sort of losing their jobs, and it's not for a kind of almost organic reason. It's more people aren't with whatever the culture is and so forth. There's something like that. It's very specific. It's not going to be for everybody. Some of you, the drama around this is that whatever you were doing, you really originally thought that this was really true to who you were right from childhood. So it's like somebody who's maybe gone and worked for a not-for-profit, for instance, in a particular cause that they really love, and then they find out that how it's being run internally is not an alignment with those ethics. It's become more like a business, or it's run by people, it's all about their ego or something like that. There's definitely a feeling that part of the drama is working out that maybe you were looking for your spiritual nourishment in the wrong place, and based on attitudes that you've had for a long time, but you're now realizing can't really be manifest there. There's definitely a sense of escaping from it though. So Spirit is saying it's fine. Like whatever it is, you'll find if it is a job, you'll find another job in 2022 relatively quickly. And it's just time to start looking. You don't necessarily have to don't show your hand on it, I would say. Try and, if that resonates, just keep on the down low. As I say, this is not an organisation where you can make the change or you can impact it. It's staying true to who you are and then finding the right connection, and you will. You will get that freedom, but you need to sort of see this it's a little bit of a wrench to be able to let go. It's a little bit of a disappointment that that's going on, but it's to free you up to really manifest, because you're meant to do that, and that's the energy that's coming through. Okay, so there were some cards under this card, and I want to firstly look at the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle. So the intention when I intuitively pulled these for this reading was, what sort of further information can we get, either about what you need to move towards or what you need to let go, because there's a little bit of an energy of both those things in this period of time. Moving towards and preparing what you want, and letting go with the full moon and the completion cycle of that, what isn't working. So with this sort of reading, it could be either, and it could be a message for both. So let's see what else Spirit wants to tell you. We've got the soul journey and decision. Okay, so I think that is saying that this is about your soul journey, your career, your creativity, whatever you want to manifest in the world has as much to do with your soul as it does with any material outcomes. Even though I think that you will have very good material outcomes in your life, it's really because you're following your soul's purpose. And Spirit is saying, yes, that's the right thing to do. And when you find that something isn't working, a business partnership, a career, something that you've been working on, whatever it might be, that it's not really in alignment for that, it's time to let that go. You need to make decisions around that. And so when you're planning in this period of time, it's planning the decisions to plant the seeds, I think, for a new project, a new job, or potentially a new relationship, as I say, if this is a relationship that hasn't really turned out to be as true-hearted as you want. Once you do that, you plant the intention, you plant the decision in your life, then you can start to move towards it. So that's what you can prepare for. The decision, make the decision that it's time to liberate. Make the decision that it's time to work more towards your soul's journey, and then start to plan around that. Keep your counsel until the opportunities of the new year come along. Okay, let's have a look at some astrology energy for you, apart from the actual full moon itself. So we've got 6th house, Mars, and waxing crescent. Okay, so firstly, I just want to say waxing crescent is about setting intentions, and it's there with the decision, just that's how it naturally fell. So that's what Spirit is saying. Do not precipitously act in this period of time. Set your intention. Plan around that. Take the Neptunian energy for what's your soul purpose so that you're aligned to that, and then plan around the details, and don't blink when you see things that maybe aren't pleasant, because all that's meant to do is recalibrate you and move you into the right thing. And I think Spirit is saying to you, you don't have to worry, you don't have to grimly hold on to prove that you were right in some way. That if you have ended up in a business partnership or a career or something like that isn't aligned to you, but it appeared to be on the surface, there's nothing wrong with going into that to start with. That was working with the best information you had, and really trying to make a decision to align with yourself. So don't blame yourself for this. Don't think, oh, I was naive, or how could I have thought. That's not the point. We all, as I said in the introduction, make all our decisions with imperfect information. The only thing we have to do is, when we get new information, is recalibrate, and that's all that's being required of you at the moment. It's definitely connected to your work, but your work is also about service to others. So the 6th house is the day-to-day work, but it's also the house of service to others. So you need to do stuff that is around that. That's why I was picking up things like not-for-profit or something like that. It could be that you ended up, because of career and being very good, say, with material things, you ended up in something like financial services, and you're really starting to see that doesn't align with my values. This is just, again, another specific example of it. But because you need to be serving others in some way, that's part of your soul purpose. And that's where you put your energy, and that's where you really, really move forward. The Mars energy really opens up for you when you are in service to others and in service to your spiritual path. So set the intentions around that, and then wait through this period and plan. Don't, as I say, be precipitous, because I do think for many of you, you're in an environment where if you spoke up, it could be difficult for you. It's better to just plan and be ready and move when you're ready. You don't have to tell everybody. And if this is a relationship, then get everything set up to be more sort of independent. You don't necessarily have to tell this person, because if it is a personal relationship, I feel like the person's very manipulative, and they may try and manipulate you to stay with them or to stay within their way of looking at things. So you really need to go into your own inner knowing. So to help you with that, let's ask what signs you might see. So this is the other cards that were intuitively pulled to let you know that you're really picking up this energy and planning and setting your intentions in a way that's going to work for you. So we have Epiphany, oops, and Clouds. Okay, so I think the Epiphany is something, this is definitely a reading where something is going to come through. It's an aha moment. Some information is coming. You're really something's going to click. And when you have that sense of that aha, I get it now. I see what's really going on. You've really started to get to the truth of it. You've really started to uncover whatever maybe the Black Moon Lilith, which has been influencing the sort of transits of the moment, maybe had hidden. You actually sort of see it. And once you see it, that epiphany is the first sign. And some of it may be a bit cloudy to start with. Some of it may be, my goodness, like is a storm coming. But if you look at this, in fact, it looks like the exact opposite. It's meant to bring the sun in. It's meant to clear the clouds. So I think that's a very good sign. I think it's also that you may see sort of pictures, faces in clouds. You may hear songs about clouds. You may think about the releasing of the clouds and that sort of wonderful new fresh earthy sort of smell that the world has just after rain. So those sort of things I think will be a sign to you that you're heading in the right direction. All right, let's ask about some timing for this. So this is not the timing of what's going on with the transit, because the full moon moves into a new moon after a couple of weeks, so it's not that timing, but it's the timing of whatever you are starting to set your intentions of in this period. Okay, so it says patience is key and in the distant future. So I think you do need to be patient with yourself and wait for the right time. Now, the distant future doesn't necessarily mean years and years and years from now, but it probably is just a sign that you're not necessarily going to have your aha moment, figure it all out, and be sort of in the new environment, the new relationship or whatever by February next year. It's probably later in the year, or this could be picking up that really what is going to come from this, the real reaping of rewards and the real sense of finding your soul's purpose may come quite a bit later, having released yourself from this situation. So you don't have to be in a huge hurry. Patience is key. For you, it's not. It is more about using this time to analyze what is coming through, recalibrate with your soul's purpose and start to plan, but take your time and keep your counsel. I keep getting keep your counsel really strongly. So there's something about this where you really shouldn't tell other people. Okay, so I want to finish off with a couple of sort of more pieces of information or guidance or whatever. I'm using firstly the Fortune Dice by Bobby Richardson, who has her own YouTube channel around channeling starseed and sort of angelic energy. So I'll roll the dice to see what that has for you, and then we'll close out with the Astro Chakra cards. So firstly we have home. So there's something about being at home with yourself here, finding your true home. It could be that for some of you this does involve a relationship that is close to home in some way. So it could be that you really have to work out, is this the right place and the right relationship? And we have intuition, so trust your intuition. Trust that epiphany in particular. It's probably coming from guidance. Then the numbers we have is 4, 5, and 6. So that's an interesting combination for this, because 4 is all about the sort of material world, structure and foundations and so forth. So it's very much picking up this energy. I think that you are very much a natural manifester, and the more that you stay true to yourself and not caught up in things that aren't quite right for you, the more that you will do that. 5 and 6 are interesting. 4 and 5 together are almost like opposing energies. So it's very much like the feeling of this time, where there's sort of opposing energies of the big picture and the detail and so forth. In this case, it's the opposing energy between structure and change. So 5 wants to take you on a really wild ride. 4 wants to have structure. So I think this is the tension for you, because I think you have probably invested quite a bit in whatever you have been in. So, but you have to be ready to surf the wave. and so forth with the 5, and to go through the change. And in some, this has got to do with divine intervention, potentially in your love life. So for some, this will be about a love relationship, or it may bring in, by being prepared to make sure the foundations connect to your soul purpose, but to be flexible enough to change and recalibrate, may bring in a divine union of some sort, potentially, or certainly divine intervention. So the more that you can manage the dual energies of this time between foundation, structure and so forth, and change and the new, the more you bring in that sort of intuition, that divine guidance and so forth. So let's finish off with the Astro Chakra cards for you, just for some final advice. Okay, so it's interesting because I have over and over in this had the sense of like, keep your counsel until you're ready. And I think that's still true, but it's interesting. I think with the throat chakra here and Mercury, it's saying speak out. I think at the right time you can speak out. I just think you need to go through this planning process, get all the information you need, get your next step, whatever it is. If it's breaking up from a relationship, it's being established for yourself. If it's leaving a workplace, it's having the other job. If it's one creative project to another, it's having the other one ready. When you are ready, you can speak out, and it will be important to do that. But I just don't feel that's right now. This is about your heart connection, reconnecting to your heart. So this is the heart chakra, and it is about reconnecting to who you are as an individual. So there's something about whatever you've been in, relationship, career or whatever, that has taken you off your heart path. This is reconnecting to that and remembering you're an individual. You don't need other people. And when you do that, you reclaim your power with the solar plexus chakra, and you reclaim your Mars, the energy, the passion moving forward. Remember I said once Mars came up there as well too. When you really do know how you can serve others and how you can be true to your spiritual path, that's when you have the energy come through. So it is saying eventually speak. I'm just going to say, even though that card came out, for most of you, keep your counsel until you really know that it's the right time. And for some, it may be sooner than later with that. At some point, you speaking your truth and your individuality with passion is going to be part of what you do. But I just think keep your counsel during this period of time at least. So I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 2, and I hope that it helps you. It's sort of a tricky sort of timing in a way, but I do think there's a lot of potential. And as I say, I think this transit, even if bringing things to the surface and looking at the truth is a bit tricky, it really liberates you. And I think there's so much that you can achieve into 2022 once you really start to own your spiritual path connected to your material outcomes. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So to start the reading, the card from the Buddha Reading Cards that you chose to come here, the Buddha Reading Cards have a number of suits, so they have different sorts of energies or different overarching messages. And so I thought that this will be very key to what is the underpinning of this energy and how to use it the best. So for you, you have purity. So you're from the purity suit of this deck. And so pure thought in this case. So there is actually a strong connection, I think, to the Mercury energy there, purifying your thought, making sure that it's as clear as possible. I'm getting a sort of image of a mirror or some very shiny surface, and that you're sort of seeing things very truly and very purely, that it connects to your sort of spiritual center and so forth. But I think that there is a sense of going through information and making sure how pure it is during this time. The particular card here has a quote and some advice. So there's a quote from the Buddha, and it is, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves." So there is something about making sure that what you're thinking and planning is true to who you really want to be and is pure. This says, "Look deep into your heart and question the motivation of your thoughts, as well as their truthfulness. Do they lead to happiness?" So I think we've got a really nice way of stress testing any of the information you get and the decisions that you're making in this time. When you can remove your own personal fantasy stories from your thoughts, you will be able to embrace reality simply as it is and understand that there is a divine purpose to everything that happens to us. Now that's very interesting, because one of the things that Roland Legrand was saying about the Neptunian thing is that it is about our beliefs and about our own personal sort of stories that we tell ourselves. And we do have to be very clear. This is why we stress test it with Mercury, to make sure it's not just what we want to believe, but it is actually what is true and what is most going to serve us. So I really think this is showing that for you, that you have big dreams, you have big, your values are very pure, you really want certain things, you have desires and so forth that you want to pursue, but it's important to make sure that they are real, that they are things that you can, at this point in your life, it doesn't mean that you can't over your life, but at this point with the energies and what you have at your disposal, you can purely do what you want, and achieve it. It's not just, I want to be a superhero, tomorrow or something like that. So there's something in there. I think that the Mercury energy is very powerful for you at this time. Okay. So let's ask for a bit more detail from the tarot about what are the things. If we know that what you really are doing now is distilling the information that's coming to you, and stress testing may be a dream or a creative ambition or a love or whatever it is that you're really looking at the moment, to try and understand as clearly as possible what it truly is, as opposed to just what you want it to be. In what sort of areas of life, and what advice would Spirit give around that for you? Okay, interestingly enough, this has some similar energy to one of the other readings. So some of you may have gone to another reading. What this is saying, picking up on the message of that card about purity and about what you want as opposed to what can realistically happen, or what is your personal mythology as opposed to what you can achieve. It looks to me like you have put a lot of effort and a lot of work into something. It could be in your career, could be in a relationship, could be something creative. I actually think for many of you it might be something creative, but it could be anything. But what is going on at the moment is whether or not exactly what you have developed is what's going to give you the recognition that you would want, and whether it's something that you can truly complete. Because we've got the Six of Wands reversed, which is like recognition reversed. It's like you're starting to see that maybe what you had hoped to achieve with something that you put quite a bit of work into and you've got the foundations for, whether it's going to give you the recognition that you would have hoped that it would, and whether that effort, whether in fact you need to do something that's quite different. It's interesting. I feel like you're not completing or getting it because you've sort of almost put a lot of work into the standard way of doing something. This is what, like if I want to be a top-notch barrister, then this is the particular course I need to do, and this is the particular organisation I need to work with, and this is the time frames that I need to do, and I'm getting there. But for some reason there feels like a blockage because there's something unconventional and something a bit more in your own knowing rather than in, this is what I'm saying, it's very similar to another reading. So some of you may have picked up this energy from too, where there's something quirky or different about what you can do. And until you've really worked out what that is, then it's hard to complete something. So it's almost like the truth that is coming up for you is that you need to course correct a bit. I don't feel like anything is wasted really, but until you course correct, I'm getting that saying that they say that doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Now I'm not saying you're insane, but if you go back to that purity of thought and you look at the details, there's something in something that you're doing that is not on the current course that you're going to really deliver what you want. It needs to be a bit different. It needs to be a bit quirky in some way. It needs to have your own personal flair to it, your own personal truth. And having that confidence in that will be important, because until you do that, you're just going to keep being stuck. It's like maybe you've been looking at sort of something that other people have been successful with, but you need your own special sauce to really make it, because if you're just a kind of clone of what's been happening before, it's not going to really do it for you. So there's a understanding of that in this time, understanding what is, it feels like just really slight recalibration. Doesn't feel like you need to change much. You've really done a lot of good work around this, but it's a slight recalibration that just makes you a little bit left of center. That, I think, can open that energy for you. It's not, I think it feels like someone who has thought, well, if I do, as I say, these various things, then success is assured because I know that I have the skills. And you do have the skills, but it's doing just what's been done before is not going to do it for you. It's doing just something a little bit different, using what you have, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, but like basically doing something a bit different really shifts that energy for you. And this is a time to look at that. So it's like, what was the big picture? But then what is the detail? What is the detail about your dream? What is it you're really trying to achieve? Because it almost feels like you have had a lifelong dream about something, and you really do have the ability to do it. There's no doubt about that. It could be realistic, but it's like you don't have to be your idol. I guess that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be your idol. You don't have to be your boss. You have to be yourself. And once you do that, that really brings in, it's the piece of the recipe that you haven't, it's the spice that you haven't put in the recipe yet. So let's ask, given that, because I think it's really a very internal thing, what are some of the external factors on you at the moment that's influencing this? And hopefully it will help you, but also if they're standing in the way, understanding that, looking at that truth for what it is, allows you to start to back your own messaging and your own style a little bit more. Because you feel like you're really just starting to develop, and I think you're further along than you think. Yeah, you are. The King of Discs. Okay, so what I'm getting is that maybe there's an external factor. The interesting thing about this, say this was in an organization, because it's just an example, but it's to give you the energy. You feel as though you're really just starting out and you're still learning the ropes to some degree, but you're not necessarily getting sort of seen for what you're doing. There maybe is a colleague who is being seen and being pushed forward more than you, and you feel like, how have they been able to do that? I don't seem to be able to be on that trajectory. And so you're kind of looking up to them and wanting to do what they did, but you're not understanding that you're actually more advanced than you think. You're more like the King of Discs. It's just that you don't believe in yourself yet. They're more conventional within the environment that they're in. So you're not, and this is if it's, say, in an organization, it's just to give an example. It's following the conventional is not going to get you the recognition you need. Following your own vision and wanting your own sort of place in the sun will, but it takes a little bit of courage to do that. And something has affected your self-esteem. Something has affected your sense that you can do it. And I do feel it's like a colleague's got further than you, or somebody else's creative ambition is doing better. There's something like that. And it really is understanding that there's some balancing you need to do with the Chariot, and that things could move very, very fast actually with the Chariot once you have that aha moment. Once you're prepared to look at that and say, it's not unfairness, it's just that I've limited myself a bit too much. And when I'm clear about that and I start to really articulate what's different, and I don't try and just compete and emulate someone else, I actually start to own who I am. I can really start to move forward. But until I do that, I'm just going to hit brick walls. I'm not going to get it. It does take some courage. It takes doing something differently. Even if at first it looks like that's not going to work, it's ultimately the thing that will work in the longer term. So it's almost like that slow and steady wins the race. It's like this person or your competitors or whatever have pushed out in front of you, and they seem to be just doing all the same thing, and it's the same recipe. But there's a point at which you can turn that around, but you have to have the strength to be true to who you are, and that you are actually more skilled, more developed really than most of your competitors, but you have to own that in whatever way that is. So it's a very strong work or creativity sort of feeling around this. If it's around a relationship, then it's that you are giving your power to somebody else who, again, maybe sort of seems to tick all the boxes. around it, around what, what's the right person to be with and what's the right way to be in a relationship and so forth. But you're a little bit different, and you need to do something that's a little bit different and own that in some way and have the courage to do that, because you are actually, well, you're certainly better at being in a relationship for you than other people's directions around it. So let's also look at some of the cards that were also under this Buddha reading card. So first I want to go to the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle to kind of pair with the Journey of the Sacred Bee Tarot. So the intention of the cards that I intuitively pulled from the Sacred Bee Oracle are around what you either need to embrace more or let go of more, because the embracing more is getting into the detail, planning and preparing with the energy of this particular full moon. But a full moon is also about what you finish, what you let go of and so forth. So it could pick up one or both of those energies. So we've got growth and tranquility. Well, that's nice. That's a really nice energy. You are going to grow. Once you realize that being you is your secret ingredient, you are really going to grow. You are going to go very rapidly from the Page of Pentacles to the King of Pentacles. You really are going to do that. And there's a growth period coming in. So own that that's coming. Just own that. Trust it. Have tranquility within who you are. You don't have to be the same as everybody else. In actual fact, you'll do far better when you're not. So allow that growth to come in, back yourself, turn around this energy of, oh, I'm never going to be recognized, I'm never going to be seen, to go, I'm going to back what I'm doing and I'm going to really do more and more that is quirky and different to me and less what everybody else is doing. That's the key for you. Let's have a look at the astrology energy around you, apart from obviously the transit that we're talking about. Hang on, I'm just going to move that to get that a little bit more in center, get the camera a bit more in center for you. So astrology energy. 4th house, Venus, Chiron. Okay. So this is very true to who you are. This is the point. The 4th house in astrology is who you are at your base, who you are at home, and in many ways is just as important, if not more important, I think, than the sun sign and the ascendant. It's really who you are. When you're at home, right at the base, it's who you are. If you know what your astrology chart is and you know what your 4th house sign is, pay attention to that. There's something in that will be part of who you are and that special source, I think. The planet that rules it is the moon, so there's a highly emotional side around this. You may sometimes get emotionally caught in patterns where you feel like you're not seen. I'm getting that for some of you, you may not have been seen in your family at home when you were a child. That some of this is replicating a pattern where you didn't seem to be recognized in some way. So, and again, I don't think you could have been like the other people in your family if that's the case. So, but ultimately that maybe was a good thing for you, even at the time that you might not have felt at home with them. It's telling you something about the fact that you are quirky, you are different, and you should do what you love with Venus. You should be following what you love, because if you do, you trigger the tarot card of the Empress. You trigger the manifestation, the abundance, and I'm getting for some of you, this might be about how and who you love. So some of you, there may be a shift in that in a very fundamental way, and that's what this is about. And you've been doing what everybody else thought was conventional, and now you're going to own who you love and what that really means. So that will be very specific, but for some of you that might apply. With Chiron, there's a bit of a wounded healer sort of aspect around Chiron, which is you do have a natural healing ability for others, but you have to heal yourself first to really do it. And that, I think, is owning who you do. I'm also getting for some of you that, particularly with the Pentacle sort of energy here, that some of you might be working in alternative therapies, or you might be working in very conventional medicine and you need to move into alternative therapies. There's something around healing for some of you, very much in terms of what you create and what you can bring in. And there's something inspirational about that, if that's the case. Okay, let's also look, there are some cards here that are around what signs you would see if you're really starting to use this energy well. Okay, so meditation, I think, could be suggesting just do meditation, go within, meditate within yourself, think about this, think about what is different. But you may also, read about meditation, particularly if you are working in alternative therapies or something like that, you may come across sort of different meditative techniques and so forth, that kind of thing, that might be telling you that that's the case. But I definitely think it would be saying that if you are someone who meditates, that some of those signs and energy and information will come to you through meditation. For some of you, this could be literally about fertility and about whether or not you've been using, I'm getting this again very specific, the right medical procedures. There might in fact be an alternative therapy or way that you could enhance your fertility if that's what you're looking for. Of course, you do not take advice of a tarot reader on this. Go and get proper medical advice if that's the case. But for some of you, there could be something like that, like there's a different way of doing it, that if that's the issue that you're really trying to sort of have come into being. But for others, I think it's more like holding your own baby, your own sense of who you are, your own self. It's like it's your own inner child, and there is a kind of an inner child healing that needs to go on with this. Or you may literally hear songs with the word baby in it. You may see pictures and advertisements of things around children, something like that. Pay attention to what you were thinking and contemplating about at that time, because that will be a key or a sign for you. Okay, so let's look at timing. Let's just sort of see what some key timing points may be once you really start to move through this energy. Once you've sort of gone through the planning and preparing and you're into 2022, what are some key timing elements around this? Okay. All right, but firstly, it's saying like in the immediate, it's not going to tell you too much detail. It's just saying in good timing. And I think that's that it will come when you have really realized this and you've started to do it. You'll get divine timing. Things will come through. There's something in 4 to 5 years, something that you're kind of birthing, I think, in this period of time that really starts to come to fruition in 4 to 5 years. Or that in 4 to 5 years, there's a key shifting point that takes you to another level. So this is a long-term thing that you're looking at here. But it doesn't mean it's going to take 4 to 5 years to be successful. It's just that's going to be key at the kind of next level, leveling up and so forth. The rest of it, trust, like moving into much more of this sort of abundance is going to happen once you really start to own what is different about you. And then you've got divine timing around it. But in 4 to 5 years, something key is coming in for you. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to use some dice and then the Astro Chakra cards. So these dice are from Bobby Richardson, who's got a channel about starseed channeling and sort of higher energy channeling you might want to check out. So we're just going to look for some angelic sort of downloads and numbers for you. So you've got guidance firstly. Hard to read these, but that says guidance. So you are going to get, this is probably why meditation is important, sort of like some spiritual guidance around this. And we've got logic. So that's why this said right at the beginning that you really need to go into the details of this and that mirror. So look at the truth, look at it and think about the logic. And I think that once you sort of get that spiritual guidance and you look at the logic of this, you're going to have this aha moment where you go, yeah, of course. If I just do what everybody else is doing, the best I'm going to be is somewhere in that pack. If I do what's true to me, I'm going to really move forward. So you've got 4, 5, and 7 as well. So that's a huge change energy. So those numbers may mean something to you more generally, but just in terms of angelic and numerological energy, 4 and 5 are like a push-pull energy, which I think is very true of this time. It's between the material and the soul. It's between the detail and the big picture. This is also between stability and change. So you are going to be going through a period of time where one part of you don't want to lose what your foundation is, but you want to be ready to ride the wave of change that comes in, and there's a lot of change energy. And that this is saying that you don't have to throw out everything that you've done. It's just that you have to find that different way of doing things. And with 7 there's a kind of a download of energy for you from spirit around that. There's a kind of a divine wisdom with it. So the guidance is definitely there to make you understand how you can just calibrate what you do to be more you and less what everybody else is doing. Okay, so let's finish off with some Astro Chakra cards for you. Okay, so this is very key, very key to who you are. And I think that there is, maybe some inner child sort of stuff. There might be stuff right from who you were and what you believed about yourself right from the beginning, because we have two of the root chakra here with the moon and with Pluto. That's like having moon and Pluto conjunct. And so that's a lot of emotion around transformational change and so forth at the point of your security. It is about security, but it's also about renewal. It is saying that the way to really get that security that you want and to really build is to renew, is to transform. It's required. Otherwise, you're just always going to stay in this sort of like, well, this is safe, but it's not going to get you the respect to the degree that you should get it. Doesn't mean that you're disrespected now, but to really get recognized and really move forward and really transform and renew, you're going to have to be prepared to almost relinquish a bit of the moon energy and move more into the change energy. That then allows you to really communicate with the throat chakra what your life direction is, and Mars energy. So it really unlocks it for you. Once you start to get that, yes, this is who I am, and I don't care if it takes a bit longer, or I don't care if other people don't understand it. This is who I am, and I'm really going to connect with it because it's the truth, and that's what I'm speaking. You get very energized, and that brings the stuff in for you, including the guidance. And you will find then that it really isn't a matter of survival, that you've got that covered. You've definitely got that covered, far more with the King of Discs than you're giving yourself credit for. You're not going to sort of find yourself suddenly worrying about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the sort of base level needs. You will be able to move forward. But there's something about almost conservative values, and I don't mean that politically. I mean like, we must think about career, we must think about money in the bank, we must think about all those sort of things. That is, and doing the conventional thing and doing what is expected, that is holding you back at the moment. But once you let that go and you trust in yourself and you communicate your life direction, you'll find it sorts itself out. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3, and I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you want to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So we're going to start the reading with the card that you chose to come to this reading. So that's from the Buddha Reading Cards. And these come in different suits. And so we'll see what suit you have been drawn to and what is an overarching message around all of this, the focus. It may help us work out whether the focus should be more on the facts or more on the big picture in that kind of Neptunian versus Mercury sort of balancing act of this time. So for you, we have cultivation card. So this is a time where you're cultivating something. So that would suggest that people who've come here, whatever the issue is that we're talking about, you have actually been working on something and you're working out what you will take forward and what you will let go of, particularly as this particular card in this suit is 35, renunciation. So it does suggest that part of the full moon energy is to let go what isn't working anymore and to shine that light in preparation and planning into the future about what will work. There are quotes here. So there is a quote from a Maharaji, which is Nisargadatta Maharaj. So I'm not really sure who that is. If you're familiar with Buddhism, you may be more familiar than me. But the quote is, "Give up all ideas about yourself and simply be." So there may be something here where this is about becoming more true to yourself and what you want to do. And it's really interesting because this kind of energy has come through in all the readings, and I'm really thinking it's part of it because I think that we have been spending so much time in the last couple of years because of all sorts of external events, having to fit in with rules, regulations, what's required, compliance and so forth. I think there's a liberational energy here and getting back to the basics of who we are. So I think you are very much connecting into that. This card says, there is a great difference between struggling in life and loving life. The practice of renunciation or voluntarily letting go will help you end this struggle and make loving life possible. For when you are not struggling, you can give all you have to love, to dream, to be who you truly are, and to everything that you do wholeheartedly. So there's something in here. I do think maybe there's been some limitation or difficulty around some of your hopes or dreams in the last year, and maybe some of them aren't right for you. Maybe that's part of that Neptunian energy. Going back to the first principles of who do you want to be and then planning from that, letting go of actual outcomes and looking at the feeling within it, I think might be a key thing for you. Okay, so let's ask Tarot for a little bit more detail on that. Because that's a fairly broad thing. It's letting go what isn't working to bring in what will. So let's get a bit more information about that for you. Okay, it's interesting because all the cards have come up reversed, which is very much picking up this letting go. So I think it is confirming for the people that have come to this reading, there is something probably in the last year that you are moving away from, that you will let go. The good news is I don't think it was anything that was really that true or close to your heart. It might have been something that you felt you had to do, things that you had to do for material reasons or for regulatory reasons or something like that. There's definitely a sense of release coming through, and being prepared to do that and be happy with doing that will allow the new to come through. Because with the Queen of Cups reversed and the Ace of Pentacles reversed, that does suggest that part of what was going on is that you may have in the last year felt you lost way with what you emotionally really wanted to do. It feels like most of you were under some sort of imperative, probably economic, but possibly also the dictates of friends or family or being in an organisation that you weren't aligned to or something like that. But for whatever reason, because it wasn't true to you, you weren't feeling, this is truly who I am emotionally, you weren't really able to get the material outcomes that you wanted. You were hitting sort of brick walls around that, limitations. It doesn't surprise me at all that this sort of energy would come up in one of these readings, because the external world in the last year or two, particularly with dealing with the pandemic and so forth, has probably meant for a lot of people that there were real limitations on what they could do. There were requirements to do what was just necessary to get by and not necessarily what you really wanted to do from your heart. There was a sort of sense of isolation from others and all that sort of thing. And, direct economic issues for some around running a business or whatever. So that caused some real mental concern. You worried about things with the Six of Swords reversed. And I think part of this is to let go of the worry and just to be. And let go also of the sense of like you just kept putting hard work into something that wasn't really still giving you what you wanted. Because with the Ten of Wands reversed, there is a promise there of moving away from a sense of responsibility, burden, and overworking and so forth. I think many of you were workaholics during 2021. Really burning the candle at both ends, but not necessarily getting the outcomes that you wanted. And I feel like most of that was externally driven. And you've been careful. You felt like you had to be really careful with the Nine of Wands reversed too. And I think you've actually started to go, really, is this worth it? And I think that's good. But I do feel for most of the people who've come here, there's also going to be a shift with what's happening in the world economically and everything that allows you to sort of like relax out of that energy. So I think this is really, you've been through the kind of almost economic material dark night of the soul. You're coming into something that will be better, but you've got to let go of whatever it was. For some of you, it might have been that you were, trying to sort of, run a business, for instance, and it just really wasn't taking off because of all that stuff. And if you let go of that and you think of a new way to make your money, or a new business idea or a new product line or something, that will actually help bring the new energy through, because something was out of sync. Something was, and I think for many of you, you might have been stuck in a job that you just kept because, you needed to know that you were going to make money and you didn't know what other jobs would be around, that kind of energy. I do think that just letting go of that worry will bring in the better energy. So let's see what we have around the external world, because I do think most of this is externally driven, to be frank. I think that you have been buffeted a bit in the last year by external factors, and probably primarily around work, money, economic, those sorts of things. It is possible it's around a relationship, but I'm feeling it's much more around just material, how do we get by in the world type of energy. Okay, so it's definitely saying things are getting better externally. So you have been through the worst of it. It's confirming that. Like nearly every single one of these cards is the right way up. The only one that is reversed is the Princess of Wands. And I think that would be saying don't stay stuck in this energy. You know, the one issue that you might have is sort of like not knowing whether you can trust the new energy coming through, the new sort of opportunities and so forth that are there, and feeling a bit exhausted. It might be saying take a bit of a rest during this period of time. That's probably why that's saying, you know, just let go of things so that you can cultivate your own personal inner energy so you're ready, because there's some really good stuff coming up externally into your life into 2022. There could be a person like who comes along and gives you seed money for something, or who is a new boss that is fantastic, or is just, you know, a business partner, or potentially a romantic partner. But it's a really good energy here with the King of Discs. It's well established. It's skilled. The person is skilled at what they do. There's a sense of commitment and so forth to them. Very grounded energy. So if it's a romantic thing, then there's something really nice coming in. And if you've had difficulty around all that in this last year, there's something better coming in. For others, I think it's like a business partner, a new job with a great boss, something like that. You're definitely recognized by someone big time. So maybe even some of the struggle, just your capacity to deal with this, is being recognized in some way, and things are coming much more into balance. You're feeling much more in balance. When before you were feeling sort of both emotionally and intellectually exhausted, you have the capacity to bring all that together and enjoy your relationships with others and have pleasure in life, and maybe connect back almost to a childhood dream or whatever, something that you've wanted to do. If there were issues around your family for some reason, it's coming into a much better thing. And I'm getting, this is very specific, but if any of you were having some conflict with a child, potentially, that's coming into balance better as well too. Or if you as the child, you know, but as a grown adult, you know, with your parents had an issue, it's going to come into more balance. So you are definitely through the worst. So that's what you do need to let go of, the energy of that. And of anything that didn't work, it probably wasn't meant to work. It's about finding the new for you and what you will get recognition for. But I think you're getting recognition to some degree for your persistence and for your strength. I think you're a very, very strong person. You've been through a lot and you're really strong. And the only thing to think about is not exhausting yourself. Just allow yourself to be a bit more tranquil and allow the energy to come through, because it's definitely coming through. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the cards that were under the Buddha reading card. So first I want to look at two cards from the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle, so the sort of companion oracle to this deck. And when I was intuitively pulling these cards, the intention was for either what you need to release, and there is much that you need to release, or what you need to bring in. So we could get one or other with these cards. So we've got breakthrough and insight. Okay, so I think that's pretty clear. That's saying you are coming for a breakthrough. It's confirming it. There's a breakthrough coming, and it's partly from your insight. There is a need to look at the facts about what didn't work really dispassionately. Really disconnect from it and go, if things didn't work relationship-wise, work-wise, whatever it might be last year, yes, a lot of it was externally calibrated, a lot of it was externally brought about, but there are some things that are not the good energy to come in. And if you kept doing that energy, you limit what you get from what new opportunities are coming through. Have the insight to understand that, that there are many roads to Rome, so to speak. You can jump from one to another and get there probably a lot quicker and a lot happier. So, but that's confirming again, you are definitely coming into a better cycle. So cultivate that, be ready for that, believe in that, and be prepared to take the opportunities that are coming in. So let's have a look at some astrological, other than the actual full moon itself, astrological energy around you at this time. So we have the South Node, the waning crescent, and the 10th house. Yeah, this is definitely, for most of you, this is around career, who you are in the world and so forth, with the 10th house. And the 10th house is a house of getting recognition and honours and awards and really starting to be seen and recognised. So I think it's very much doubling down on this. Is you're coming into a much better cycle for your career, business, anything material at all, or anything about who you are in the world. You're coming into a time, but it is after moving away from something that isn't working. The South Node is normally seen in astrology as the sort of past karma, the things that we are moving away from. So there's some patterning and some energy and some suppression of your energy that you're moving away from. With the waning crescent too, it's surrendering, releasing control. This is the message over and over. Release control. You've been through the worst of it. Allow the new energy to come through. Maybe in terms of planning in this time and preparing, think about who you want to be in the world, because that is what you can start to look at. Don't believe whatever frustrations of the last year or two are going to replicate. There is a much better thing coming in, because as I say, it's only your self-esteem that you have to potentially work on. You're going to start to get the recognition to turn that around. So let go of that issue. Think about who you want to be in the world and bring that in, because there's a much better time coming through for you. So let's ask what signs you might see with these cards that you are really starting to let go and let God, which I think is the real message here. So coins, it's pretty positive, and the third eye. Okay, so I think this is saying money is coming. If you're worried about money, money is coming. And as that starts to happen, as you start to get material options, you'll really start to feel it and start to believe it. You may also literally see coins. You may see pictures of them, anything like that. I'm also getting that some of you may, start to flip a coin sometimes for a yes, no, to connect to your third eye and to connect to your intuition. So some of you that might work for as a divinatory tool, to use coins in some way. The other divinatory tool that's based on coins is the I Ching. So you don't actually have to have coins to do it, but you can use coins, or they have particular sticks that they use, but there are various ways of using the I Ching, so you may want to look into that potentially as well, because there is something about you that is psychic. There is something that is meant to connect to your third eye. You may see these sort of symbols. That might be a sign, and pay attention to what you're thinking at the time, but really also pay attention to what's coming in telepathically. It's like you can almost bring this energy in, and particularly bring this person in through almost a telepathic connection in the 5D before it comes through in the 3D. And if this is a relationship, very much so. There's like a very good relationship that maybe you'll almost dream about or have a sense of before it comes about. So let's have a look at some timing beyond the timing of the actual full moon itself, but more around what you can bring in with this wonderful new energy coming in. Okay, so I don't think this is saying success is in the distant future, but I think it is saying that you are starting on a long road now. You've been on a long road, I think, of difficulty. You're starting on a long road of success, but it's time to work. Once this starts coming through, once you have that sense, it's time to work. Don't let this opportunity, don't doubt yourself, and don't think I have to see everything instantly. I think you will see recognition, a new opportunity, all of those sort of things very quickly, but I think the real reward of your life is further down the path once you've actually let go of that negative sense and really started to connect with the right people. And you need to do some work to get there, but that's okay, because it's going to be almost like a complete revelation, as it said, a breakthrough under there, where you're really working on something that you can see. And I actually am getting a legacy. Some of you are going to leave a legacy. I think that's why the distant future is there. It's something that you're going to bring that's very profound. Okay, let's have a look at some angel numbers and sort of guided information from the fortune dice, which is from a woman called Bobby Richardson, who has her own channel around those sort of energies if you want to check it out. So let's see what we have there for you. Okay, so firstly we have contact. Now I think in Bobby's sort of system, I mean, this could connect with, it could be a starseed, and that could be why there is the sort of third eye coming up. There could be sort of energy from that level trying to contact and connect with you. For some of you, and this is quite specific, this may even be a spirit guide that's very grounded and maybe from your ancestral line. That's not always going to be the case. Or it could be saying, if you are a starseed, it's connecting to places that you've been before and that kind of energy. But there's something about that that's coming through for you. And probably this is dreams in dreams. So pay attention to your dreams, because again, a lot of this could be coming through in the third eye. We have 0, 0, and 2. So that's really doubling down big time on the sort of contact, the third eye, the divine intervention. It's interesting because so much of this reading felt to me about like external factors, economic and so forth. But this is really saying part of what's bringing this new energy is literally divine intervention for you to have a double zero. And then the 2 is about connection. So there is definitely, this person's important in some way. It could be a divine union, literally. It could be a divine intervention from a guide. It could be a manifestation of both. It could be, a divinely guided business partner or something like that, or new boss, as I said. But the divine is definitely coming to your aid here. That's why you can let go, and that's why you can cultivate that energy as it comes through. If you just allow that the universe, has your back, as they say. That kind of energy is definitely there. The universe is looking after you. There is a divine connection, divine input, divine timing, divine everything really around this. So trust it. Don't doubt yourself. That's the only thing. Like, keeping the residual from what happened before and expecting that to happen again is the only thing that could trip you up. That's why you need to release that. Let go of what isn't working. Let go of those expectations, because something much better is coming through. I feel really optimistic for you, and you're really divinely connected and guided. So I hope that resonates for you and is helpful. Oh, actually, before I go, I want to do the Astro Chakra cards as well. I'm just getting a bit carried away with that double zero. That's pretty significant. But let's close out with the Astro Chakra cards for you. Wow. So firstly, from the heart chakra, you have Jupiter for wisdom. That's expansion. That's generosity. I think you've probably been very generous to people even when things have been hard for you, and I think there's going to be almost a pay it forward coming towards you for all of that. And I think generosity from the universe, and that kind of opens up your heart again. And certainly if this is about a divine connection, a divine love relationship, then that is definitely one which is much more mutually nourishing coming in for you. This is about you regaining self-esteem if you've had an issue with that, transforming that and strengthening your solar plexus chakra with Pluto. So there's a change coming through. Take that change energy, allow that, believe in that, because this is the universe believing in you. And there's the spirituality that's connecting you with the third eye as well too. So you've got both the third eye and also the crown chakra open, connecting. And in both cases there's Pluto. So there's a double whammy of change and transformation for you. But this is about you rising. This is your time to rise. Powerful. 2022 is going to be amazing for you, I think. As long as you just believe, let go, let God, and believe it, and it's going to come in, and it's the beginning of something that is a much longer term cycle, and one that is really going to, I think, bring in a legacy for you. There's something very significant you're going to do, and if it's around a partnership, it's a very significant partnership, and one that maybe even brings in significant children and so forth in the distant future. There's something that you're preparing for much further out that you probably don't even know what that is yet, and you don't need to know, but it's time to work. It's time to use that energy. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you do know what this is, or you have a sense of it and care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.